You don't owe the world constant access to your presence. Let that sink in. We've been conditioned to believe that visibility is value, that being available, being reachable, being everywhere somehow proves our worth. But let me tell you something bold, and you better remember it. Your absence can be more powerful than your presence. Let them miss you. You don't owe the world constant access to your presence. That idea, the one that tells you to always be available, always respond, always show up, is the very thing draining your power. There's a pressure in today's world to constantly perform, to be seen, to be heard, to be online. But sometimes the most powerful move you can make is to pull back. Not to disappear, but to recenter. Not to abandon, but to reclaim. Because when you step back from the noise, something magical happens. The world starts to feel your absence. And that absence, it speaks louder than words ever could. People don't notice presence, they expect it, they get used to it, they grow entitled to it. But absence, that shakes them, that makes them pause. And when you're always available, you become part of the background, a given, a constant. But when you're not there, that's when they start to feel your weight. They start replaying your words. They start realizing the energy you brought into the room, the silence you filled with your light. It's only in your absence that they begin to recognize what they had access to. It's not about playing games. It's about holding your value close and letting others rise to the level of appreciating it. There's a myth that says if you're not seen, you're forgotten. But truth is, the right people never forget. They remember your spirit, your presence, the way you made them feel, because real impact leaves residue. It lingers. So no, pulling back doesn't mean erasing yourself. It means allowing your energy to expand beyond your physical presence. It means trusting that you've made enough of an imprint to be felt without constantly having to prove yourself. Let them miss you not because you've vanished, but because your essence is unforgettable. That's power. Silence is not weakness, it's strategy. It's in the silence that people start to listen differently, not to your words, but to what your absence reveals. When you step out of constant contact, people are forced to reflect, to sit with the absence of your voice, your laughter, your ideas. And in that space, they begin to recalibrate, to reassess, to realize. Your silence becomes a mirror, and suddenly they're faced with everything they overlooked, everything they undervalued, everything they dismissed. Let them sit with it, let them grow from it. That's when the shift happens. That's when they evolve or they exit. Either way, you win. There's a quiet dignity in stepping away without explanation, in choosing solitude over shallow connection. You don't need to announce your retreat or justify your silence. Your energy doesn't need permission to rest, reset, or relocate. When you remove yourself from spaces that no longer nourish you, you're not being cold, you're being courageous. You're not punishing, you're protecting. You're giving the world a chance to realign itself to the rhythm of your worth. And that's when things get real. That's when the truth shows up. Who missed you? Who didn't? Who reached? Who stayed silent? Let the answers come without forcing them. They always do. And while they're missing you, you're rediscovering you. In the stillness, in the quiet, in the moments where you no longer feel pulled in every direction. This is where your soul breathes, where your mind clears, where your power regroups. You're not stepping back because you're weak. You're stepping back because you know your strength doesn't need an audience to exist. Energy is currency. Every thought, every word, every gesture, it costs something. And just like money, once it's spent, you don't get it back. Yet too often we give it away freely. We pour ourselves into people who don't reciprocate, into spaces that don't honor us, into conversations that go nowhere. Why? Because we've been made to believe that giving endlessly makes us good, makes us worthy, makes us loved. But here's the truth. Giving without discernment makes you empty. And emptiness is not noble. It's dangerous. When your tank runs dry, there's nothing left for you. That's not selflessness, that's self-destruction. You've got to understand what you bring to the table. Your energy isn't just warm smiles and good vibes. It's clarity, presence, intuition, resilience. It's the ability to shift the temperature of a room just by walking in. It's the kind of power that can lift someone's spirit, ignite a vision, calm chaos. And if you're always accessible, always pouring, always available, you're teaching people that your energy costs nothing, that it's just there, like air. But air is essential, and essential things should be treated with reverence. If they don't value your energy, you don't lower your price. You close the shop. It's not about being cold, it's about being clear. You can love people and still protect your peace. You can care deeply and still draw boundaries. Because the truth is, the more you give without pause, the more you blur the line between generosity and exploitation. People will keep taking if you keep giving. That's not a reflection of their character. It's a reflection of the system you've allowed. You don't need to be angry. You don't need to explain. You just need to shift, reposition yourself, pull back where you once leaned in. Not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom, out of self-respect. The ones who truly value you won't be offended by your boundaries. They'll honor them. They'll understand that your time and energy aren't infinite. That when you say, not now, it's not a rejection, it's a reset. They'll meet you where you are instead of demanding you return to who you were. And those who don't, let them fall away. Let them misunderstand you. You're not here to be easily digestible. You're not here to make everyone comfortable. You're here to honor the currency of your own life. You're here to spend your energy like it matters, because it does. You see, when you start filtering where your energy flows, your life transforms. Your conversations become deeper. Your relationships become intentional. Your space becomes sacred. You stop wasting hours explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into rooms that can't hold your full form. You start building a life that reflects your values, your depth, your truth. And that's when everything shifts. That's when your presence becomes undeniable, not because it's everywhere, but because it's rare, precious, intentional. Let them miss that. Let them feel what it's like when your energy no longer fills their space by default. You don't owe the world unlimited access. You don't have to prove your worth by burning out for others. Start treating your energy like gold, because it is. Protect it with the same fierceness you protect your dreams. Not everyone gets a front row seat. Not everyone deserves your time. Start being selective. Start being intentional. Let your no be as sacred as your yes. Boundaries are not walls, they're clarity. They're the language of self-respect. And yet, somewhere along the way, we were taught that setting boundaries makes us distant, cold, or selfish. That's a lie. Boundaries aren't rejection, they're refinement. They tell the world what you will and will not allow, what you value, and how you expect to be treated. You don't build them to push people out. You build them to protect the parts of you that deserve sacred space. Without them, you're left wide open, giving everyone permission to walk through your life on their terms. But you weren't born to be a doormat. You were born to be a force. The most dangerous thing you can do is give full access to people who haven't earned it. Because when you offer your best to those who don't respect it, you end up questioning your own worth. That's the trap. You start to wonder, am I asking for too much? No, you're asking the wrong people. Boundaries filter the real from the convenient, the committed from the opportunistic. They create space, yes, but that space is where truth emerges. The ones who are meant for you will rise to meet your standards. The ones who aren't will fall away. Let them. Don't chase what can't respect your light. We spend too much time over-explaining our boundaries, apologizing for them, negotiating them. You don't need to do that. When someone is constantly testing your lines, they're not confused. They're ignoring your clarity. And it's not your job to keep reteaching the same lessons to people who refuse to learn. If someone can't respect the simplest version of your boundary, they don't deserve a front row seat in your life. You can love them from afar. You can wish them well and still keep them out of your sacred circle. That's not cruelty. That's wisdom. It's only when you stop performing for acceptance that you see who truly accepts you. Most people aren't in love with you. They're in love with the version of you that benefits them. And when you set boundaries, that version starts to fade. You stop overextending. You stop over-apologizing. You stop molding yourself into someone easier to handle. And what happens next is revealing. Some people will pull away. Let them. Because every time you lower your boundaries to keep someone close, you betray yourself. And you deserve better than that. You deserve people who honor the real you, not just the convenient you. Boundaries are not just about saying no to others. They're about saying yes to yourself. Yes to your peace. Yes to your growth. Yes to your time, your health, your wholeness. Every time you reinforce a boundary, you reinforce the belief that you matter, that your needs are valid, that your space is sacred. And the more you stand in that belief, the more you attract relationships that reflect it. People who don't just tolerate your boundaries, but respect them, admire them, match them. That's the kind of energy you want. That's the kind of circle that makes you rise. When you set boundaries, you change the dynamic. You no longer show up out of guilt or fear or obligation. You show up from choice, from power, from love. Not just for them, but for yourself. And that shift, it changes everything. You start to feel lighter, clearer, stronger. The drama fades, the confusion stops. You begin to attract alignment instead of chaos. And when people start to feel the distance, the shift, the separation, they'll feel the difference. They'll remember the access they once had. And if they ever get it again, they'll treat it like the privilege it always was. Let them miss you. Not just your presence, but the access they once took for granted. You said, growth doesn't happen when you're constantly performing. It doesn't bloom under the weight of opinions, under the constant gaze of others waiting for your next move. Real growth happens in the stillness, when no one is watching, when there's no applause, no spotlight. It's in those private moments, those nights you sit alone with your thoughts, when you strip off the roles the world asked you to wear, that something inside begins to shift. You meet yourself without the noise, and you begin to see what actually matters. You begin to hear the sound of your own intuition, raw, unfiltered, and deeply honest. And that is where growth is born. You don't evolve by staying where it's comfortable. You evolve by stepping into the unknown, into the quiet, into the solitude that most people avoid. When you step back from the constant stimulation, the endless feedback, the opinions that drown your truth, you make room for your soul to breathe. You start questioning what you've been conditioned to believe. You challenge the lies you told yourself just to fit in. And suddenly, the things you used to chase feel small. The people you tried to impress fade into the background. Because you finally turned inward, and that mirror doesn't lie. There's something sacred about isolation, not loneliness, but chosen solitude. When you consciously step back, not to escape, but to elevate, to create, to remember, you're not missing out on life. You're preparing for a version of it that aligns with who you truly are. While others are busy trying to keep up, you're tuning in, and in that space, you shed the layers that were never really yours. The expectations, the performance, the masks. You become less about who the world thinks you should be and more about who you actually are. That clarity, that's your foundation, that's your fuel. And when you return, because you will, you'll return different. Not better to please others. Better because you've done the work. Because you've healed what they didn't see, reclaimed what they tried to define, rebuilt what they couldn't break. And people will notice. They'll feel the shift, even if they don't understand it. Your presence will speak louder, not because you talk more, but because you are more. You carry a different weight, a different light, a different rhythm. That's the power of private growth. You don't come back the same, you come back untouchable. Let them wonder where you went. Let them ask why you disappeared. Let them fill in the blanks with their assumptions. Because the truth is, you don't owe anyone your process. You don't need to broadcast your becoming. Let your transformation speak for itself. Let your results do the talking. Let your energy shift the atmosphere without saying a word. People are obsessed with being seen. But the ones who truly rise, they disappear for a while. They go deep, they do the work in silence. And when they return, they're not trying to prove anything. They are the proof. This is your reminder that you don't need to be visible to be valuable. Your worth isn't tied to how many people notice you. It's tied to how deeply you know yourself. And knowing yourself takes time. It takes space. It takes stepping away from what distracts, from what distorts, from what dilutes your truth. You're not falling behind. You're not hiding. You're preparing. You're elevating. And when the time is right, you'll show up not as someone who needs validation, but as someone who carries presence. Let them miss you. Let them feel the difference. Let them realize that while they were watching others, you were becoming something unforgettable. Rejection feels personal until you realize it's not about your value, but about their capacity. Sometimes people just aren't equipped to hold the fullness of who you are. And yet, we internalize that as truth. We bend ourselves, shrink ourselves, apologize for our depth just to be accepted. But here's the shift. Rejection is not a loss, it's redirection. It's the universe pulling you out of places too small for your expansion. You weren't meant to be tolerated, you were meant to be celebrated. And that clarity, it comes with distance. When you step away, when you stop showing up out of habit or guilt, people reveal themselves. Their silence speaks, their absence echoes. You learn quickly who was there because of what you gave and who was there because of who you are. And it stings, that revelation. It cuts through the illusions. But it's also clean, pure. Truth doesn't come with confusion. When someone stops reaching once your energy is no longer on tap, that's not rejection. That's your answer. That's your protection. You don't need closure from people who closed the door the moment you stopped overgiving. It's easy to confuse consistency with care. We think that just because someone sticks around, it means they value us. But presence isn't always love. Sometimes it's convenience. And when you finally take your presence away, when you stop showing up, stop giving access, stop filling in the gaps, they have to face the truth of what they brought to the table, or didn't. That's why stepping back is so powerful. It forces alignment, it forces honesty. It shows you who will adjust, who will fight, who will step up, and who never really saw you in the first place. Let them feel that loss. Let them miss what they took for granted. You are not for everyone. That is not a flaw. It's a filter. The right people will never need you to explain your worth. They'll see it, feel it. They'll treat your presence like the rare, powerful force it is. But that only happens when you hold yourself to that same standard. When you stop chasing, stop begging, stop giving chances to those who don't even show up with respect. You're not just withdrawing, you're becoming. You're building a new version of yourself. One that doesn't tolerate half love or half effort. And when you re-emerge from that place, people notice. They feel it in how you walk, how you speak, how you no longer chase validation. Your absence wasn't a retreat, it was a rebuild. You didn't disappear, you were refining your power. And the ones who feel your distance will either rise to meet your level or fall away. Either way, it's alignment. Your presence is a privilege. Let that be your baseline, not arrogance, awareness. You're not here to be available for anyone and everyone. You're not here to overextend, to prove, to perform. You are the source, the storm, the spark. And those who recognize that will treat your time, your energy, your presence with care. The rest, Let them miss you, let them wonder, let them remember who you were and realize they no longer have access. Not because you became cruel, but because you finally understood your worth. And once you know your worth, there's no going back to anything that doesn't match it. So don't shrink, don't chase. Don't explain your absence to those who never valued your presence. You are not meant to be everywhere for everyone. You are meant to be whole for yourself. When you pull back, when you rise, when you stop making yourself so available, the right ones will feel the shift and rise with you. The rest will fade into the background where they were always meant to be. Let them feel your silence. Let them sit with your distance. Let them remember what it felt like to have your light in their life. Not out of spite, but out of sovereignty. Because when you finally choose yourself without apology, you become unforgettable. Let them miss you. And this time, don't come running back. Let them reach. Let them rise. Let them earn their place in your atmosphere. Because your presence isn't just something to witness, it's something to deserve.